Welcome, welcome. It's Saturday morning. What a great time to sew. I love Saturday mornings. Somehow they feel so stress-free. I guess that's all depends, but I just love Saturday mornings. We are sewing number 145, and I've gotten quite a few questions on it. I don't know, quite a few. But enough that I felt like a good sew along on this would be helpful. It's a simple little top. And sometimes I want to approach stuff with a little bit of logic behind it. And so sometimes if you have logic, it will help you figure out, even if you can't look at the guide and figure that out. So 145, St. John was a designer originally. We did a reprint, and so it's available on the PBS site, and it's a dual pattern. If you got an email this morning, we sent out an email at 9 to remind you of this sew along. If you got that email, there's a link that goes to the PBS site, and it's this one and 313. They're both for $30, and that includes the shipping. All right, so we're going to get started. All right, so let's talk fabrics, and let's talk fabric numbers. And I have fabric numbers written on a little green Post-it, and that little green Post-it is going to magically appear in my hand any minute now. I can see it. There we go. Okay, so I decided, and you can do this top, obviously, lots of different fabrics. The overlay could actually even be woven. It doesn't have to be a knit. The body, the sleeve and the back have to be knit for mobility, but this overlay could be woven. It could be shears. It just opens up so many possibilities for it. The fabric that I have on is 5219 is a little floral, and then I did the black base 5270. I'm not sewing on black. I did black because I love black tops and jeans. I just love that look. I have for a million years. I just think it's really classy. So I have black jeans on with my top. What I'm going to sew on today is the overlay. Is this really beautiful mesh knit. I just put it up this morning. And it is really pretty. You can see it's going to drape really beautifully. And it has numerous different colors on it. All would look really pretty, but I'm putting it over this innuendo. So this overlay is 5271 and 5273. Actually, I'm not sure which number's which. I just wrote them down. But 5271 and 5273. And our machines are ready. Our steamer is ready. Our tape roll is ready. I'm going to move it from out behind the machine. See, we're all ready to go. So let's get started. And the goal is to me, the goal here today is to give you confidence. It says, I can do that. And there's so many times where visually I watched somebody do something, and then once I saw them do it, I thought, I can do that. So that's our goal today. And to have a little bit of fun and just kind of talk. So any questions as we go along that you have about this top, let me know. We're going to start with the first column. There's 5 columns to our guide sheet. We're going to start with that first column, and you can see what we're doing on that first column is we're sewing in those beautiful always darts. French darts always come first, right? So in this case, when I cut out the fabric, I put right sides together. The center front is on a fold, just so I don't kind of reverse one piece over another. I kind of put a pin at center front. I'm going to sew the darts, so really quickly I'll know. This has one side is smoother than the other side. The fuzzy side is the back side, typically. We have lots of garments today that we see that can be done both ways, so it is not a big deal. And so these French darts, just going to start right at the tip, pick them up, look ahead, make the bottom part even, and push go. Really well today. It's beautiful. I'm in Dallas, Texas. The weather is like outstanding. We couldn't ask for it to be better. It's basically party weather. So hopefully you guys will, in between sewing, you're supposed to go outside a little bit today if you got good weather. But I think it's good weather throughout the whole country. I actually looked across the map and it looks pretty good everywhere. Okay, so at the end of my French darts, I don't backstitch. I just tie a little knot, because I just rethreaded my machine. My threads are way too long. There we go. Okay, so let's start with any questions you have, if you have any. We'll get through questions to start, and then we'll keep going. So typically there are two French darts on your top, and there are on this one also. If you are, depending on the cup size you're doing, you might have to mark the point of this dart, because the cup size I'm using, the dart tip is so close to the cut that I know exactly where it is, as I've done this so many times, so I don't mark it. It just makes it really easy. 2 darts down. Okay, where did you find this pattern? Like literally, or you mean like probably the source? St. John is a designer. They are out of California, and I was in a shop. St. John's has both. They go into department stores, but they have their own individual stores. And this was in a St. John's individual store that I saw it. St. John's is a company out of California. They're beautiful. They do knits. Basically, they do knits. And they are really, really gorgeous, and they're really high quality. And I saw this top, and I fell in love. I thought it was gorgeous. Just drape. The drape was just so pretty. There's so many different fabrics it could be done in. I just fell in love with it. All right. What pattern are you sewing today? Here we go. 145. That's so sweet that you're just here. You don't even know what we're doing or what we're sewing, but you just showed up. That's nice. I like that. We're sewing pattern number 145, St. John's top. All right. So we're going to do that. Then on our overlay, column 1 is showing you on your overlay. Overlay is directional. So when you cut this side up, because the angle goes from the right to the left. I guess it doesn't have to, but so this next step is we're going to finish the edge of this overlay, and so I'm going to do that. So many different ways, you guys, you can finish this edge. And I thought about it, how I was going to finish it, and the reason I'm doing it is I thought about a rolled edge. The problem with a rolled edge is this is a knit, or it's a net. It's a netting mesh. It's almost too light. It's almost too light. So I decided that anytime you're using a fabric, and if the fabric is really, really light, it needs a hem. It needs the weight at the bottom. So I decided to go ahead and serge and turn and top stitch. Because that would give it the most density. So you always, whenever you're considering your finishes, you always want to consider, obviously, your sewing machines, but your fabrics, what you're working on, and how much weight you need there at the bottom. And then also you're supposed to finish across this edge. This is going to be inside. And I'm sewing the very top edge of the overlay. This forms a little bit of a cowl. I'll show you here. So this would be the right side is being shown to you. This folds in like this, and it goes like that. So that's kind of what the overlay is going to look like. How do you purchase it, the pattern? Go to fit2stitch.com. Fit2 is a number 2, fit2stitch.com, and go to the donate button. And on the donate button, you'll see the 2 patterns. They're $30. They are tax deductible, just an FYI. So you can, if you do your long form or whatever that is, you can see about doing it as a gift. It is a donation. All right, so now I'm going to hem the bottom of this overlay. I've got my machine turned to 3.5. That's typically what I sew on. I think you guys know that. How often are you planning to reprint older patterns, like the 5 patterns you recently did a pre-sale for? How often? I don't think we really have a plan. Is that fair? This whole printing our own patterns is like a brand new concept. We love it, don't get me wrong. But just if there's a pattern that you feel like you want to see brought back, we will do like what we did. We'll bring it back in a group, and you know, we can print the numbers that we want, so it just is a matter of maybe how long it will be before you get it, or you know, we'll see. And then we might even do like a special print where, you know, you can pay a little bit more and have that pattern printed. I don't know. We'll see. We've got lots of options now, which is really, really nice. And my sewing machine is stuck here. That's never a good thing. We're going to take that out and start again. So when you're starting on these corners, you don't really, I probably shouldn't have started on the corners on a mesh. So I'm going to take this out real fast and start again. Probably not a good idea. It doesn't have, I'm going to do it again just because I'm just going to watch it and be more careful. You just have to make sure that when you do it, because your fabric is so light, that it progresses with each stitch. I was talking and not paying attention, so that's not a good thing. And it's only the very beginning, but I could have come from the other direction and it wouldn't have happened. You know, we're really excited about these patterns, you guys. You know, the freedom, the flexibility. We haven't, I mean, I've been so busy, honestly, I haven't read my emails in a few days, but I'm hoping that you like them. You know, we've got some ideas of what we want to do with them long term. We're going to change up the ink. When we change up the ink, like the blue inks will all go to one. Anyway, that's kind of down the road. We won't talk about that just yet. We got to make sure we can do it first. All right, so this is really pretty. I decided to use pink thread because the pink was my base color and I felt like it would tie in really nicely. So that's going to go to the ironing board to be ironed, and I think we go to the next column. That one's all done. So we're on column number 2. Now what column number 2 shows you, I guess I'm going to go ahead and iron here. Let's iron all this. I'm going to iron the top of the overlay. The overlay, this mesh is a cotton poly, has a really nice hand to it. Presses beautifully. That way that'll just, see, isn't that pretty? See, when you did the, I kind of did a little sample piece and I put pink thread behind there. I want you to see the edge. See how you really don't see it? You really just don't really even notice it. And it because it's pink, it kind of blends in with the rest of it because it's got pink in the overlay. So I really like the choice. And I think thread color is important. I think it's important to kind of think about it a little bit. But I don't think it's critical to obsess over it. And sometimes we do get crazy over stuff like that. I'm going to press my French darts. All right, let's go on. So the next step, what we're doing, and this is where I say this is the logic of this. You've got an overlay, and on the overlay literally overlays the top. And if you notice, what it does is it comes out of one shoulder, comes out of one armhole and crosses, and it completely anchors into the other side. You can kind of tell by looking at that front picture what happens. So if you think for a minute, okay, how am I going to finish the neck edge? Number one, because there's a complete neck edge that's over the overlay. So basically, it's kind of like a long sweater set that's over an overlay that's over the sweater set. I have learned one thing in life. I cannot talk and do something at the same time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start that a 3/8 seam allowance from the neck edge because I want to be able to hem the neck edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a pin there. Okay, and then there's a pleat, and because this goes all the way to the sleeve, it's anchored in. I don't really need to mark that pleat. I just need to pleat it until it's even, and where along the shoulder doesn't make any difference. So there's a lot of times where I think we worry about markings, whereas if we get the grand picture of things, then we don't have to worry about it. So you can see that I'm even with the edge there. I'll put a pin in there too, just so I can show you. Can you guys see this? I'm even here, I've got my pleat here, and I've got my 3/8 inch seam allowance here. Now and so that's where this is going to come along and anchor into the armhole like this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just pin it right now, because why not? And I'm going to switch the order up a little bit. We're going to stay on this column, but I'm just going to switch the order up just a teeny bit because you're going to find it a little bit easier. And what I'm going to do is, before I actually sew the overlay in place, I'm just going to finish the neck edge on the front. And when I say finish, I'm not going to sew it just yet, but I am going to go ahead and serge it. But you want that overlay. That overlay is about 3/8 inch in from this, from the serge, so that I have space to hem it if I want to. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the back too, just that back neck edge. And again, when I cut out, I put right sides together. I'm going to put a pin in here. The only reason I do that is, I swear, there's so many times where I flipped it. And I think to myself, no one will ever know, but I know, and it really bugs me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so then thinking here, what I have is I'm going to put it under this camera just so maybe we can see closely. The fold of this overlay is on the inside. I notice I'm 3/8 away, and it can be a little more. It doesn't have to be exact. I follow along. I'm going to finish up matching it on this edge right here, and then you just pleat that to match. And typically when you're pleating, the inside of the pleat goes towards center front. So, can they see that okay on that camera? Oh, yeah, got it. Okay, yeah, there you go. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to do the other side the same way. Now, what I'm going to do then is just lay this back right on top, even before I do the other side. It doesn't matter. And any questions you have with this, you guys ask them now. So I'm going to lay the back right on top, and I'm going to go ahead and serge all those layers together. And so while I'm serging, I'm holding the pleat in place. Everything's happening all at one time. It's just really easy and really quick and really fun. Okay, when you turn that around, you can see how pretty that is already. That's the front. Now what I'm going to do is do this other front. It's done the exact same way. The big difference is that this side here is sewn in all the way. The armhole isn't that pretty, you guys, already? You get to see how pretty that is. Okay, so I'm going to start. I take this, so this overlay, you can see it's going to have this little, I don't know, V-shaped. You're going to fold that along the shoulder line, and it's going to be even. So the neck edge is a fold because it's a cowl. Put that about 3/8 inch away, or you could even go a half. It can be a little bit more. Okay, and then put the two edges even, the two shoulder edges even. And then what's left, which will be on top here, you're just going to pleat to where the pleat is going to the outside. Okay, and just make sure all the raw edges are all coming together. And there you have it. Now, you know, there you can really pleat any which way you want. Actually, the one I have on, I pleated one way and one the other. I kind of wanted to see, I mean, I knew the answer, but I kind of wanted to see if it made any difference at all. It does not. It does not make any difference at all. Okay, tuck that back in. Probably easier if you don't do this in the air. You have a lot more control and a lot less pulling. Okay, there we go. And then once you have that all lined up, we just put the back on top, right sides together. So this is really easy to do this, you guys, and this overlay is just very, very pretty. Just make sure you have the right side to the right side. But you somehow haven't twisted it, and just to kind of make sure, I'm going to hold that up and make sure I'm in the right place. And I am. Okay, here we go. It doesn't matter. This time I'm sewing from the outside to the inside. Doesn't make any difference. As long as your lengths are together and your widths are together, doesn't make a difference. Alright, so I'm going to show you this now from the front. And I can take my pin out because I already know which side is my back. You can see how it starts to just drape. Isn't that so pretty, you guys? It's just such a pretty little top. Easy, it's simple, graceful, feminine, yada, 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 all those things. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I've long been a big believer of anchoring that, and I'll answer questions here in just a second, in kind of giving a cowl a weight. I think it's because my mother was an interior decorator by trade. I mean, that's what she did for a living. And, you know, she was always into those weights at the bottom of the drapes. And I always would ask her, why do you need those weights? Why do you need those weights? And the reason you need those weights is because it gives it weight. So we're going to put a weight right at the middle of the cowl. You know, I don't even see that you need it. I'm still going to show you how to do it, so that if you do have a tendency to need it, you want it. When you cut this out, this is a knit, but if you're using a woven, you want to make sure you cut out a bias, because that bias is going to make that drape automatically. A knit doesn't have a weft and a warp, so you don't really need to. I'm still going to put the weight in there just to do it. How much ease did you choose for your top? Well, keep in mind this is a knit, so I use the same sizes I regularly use, and you can have negative ease on the body. I still have a little bit of negative ease on the body, but the overlay covers that, so it doesn't matter. It's not anchored in, and it's larger than the body, so I would still go by the same top that you wear, your knit tops, and use that as a base. You said the inside of the pleat goes to the center front. I'm sorry, I probably did say the inside. The inside of the pleat goes to the center front. In other words, you're saying the pleat fold faces the shoulder. I am. Yeah, thanks for the clarification, you guys. I don't know why I talk when I sew, because I'm clearly aware I can't do both. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to take the very middle of this cowl here, right here. I'm going to put a pin there, and I'm going to sew on. I just use zippers. I use old zippers. You can use anything, you guys. Please don't be as cheap as me. But I've just always got zippers laying around, and there's zippers from where I put something that I put it in, and I didn't need all of the zipper length, and so, you know, I cut it off, and I always save it there just for when I need it. I'll take 2 of these, I'll layer them together, and then I'm going to put it in front of the machine so you can see. You want to, wherever the serging is, you just want to anchor it in right there. So I'm going to put both layers there, and I'm just going to stitch through it would be the tape of the zipper. And I will typically go up and back, and then you guys saw it before and you'll see it after, and I don't even know that you can tell a difference. But you know what it also does, just FYI, I think maybe why I do it, is it really helps the inside to stay inside rather than flipping out. And it doesn't matter what color, because you're not going to see it. The one I have on, you can see I'd use the same white because I've got a white zipper right now, and I mean, you just can't see it at all. So there it is, it's sewn in. And you can see it's just a little weight. And a zipper, again, you guys, there's 1,000 things you could use. I just happen to have zippers that are a lot of times left over. Okay, but so here we go back. Sorry, you guys. Where am I? I'm on the inside here. Just a second. There you go. So you can see that it kind of just secures it down to the inside. It doesn't, I don't know that it changes the drape as much as it kind of it stabilizes. That's probably a good word. It stabilizes. Okay? Okay, cool. Hi from New York. Hi, New York. When you serge the neck edge, did you serge only the pink fabric? Yes. So the neck edge of this overlay was finished in the first column, and it was just serged. It doesn't need to be hemmed. It's too much bulk to hem it. Just leave it. Don't finish. I mean, finish it with the serger, but don't hem it. Whereas this, I serged the neck edge, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and finish the neck edge. So I'm going to come in and fold this 3/8 inch in, and I'm going to finish that neck edge. That's what we're going to do now. What is the seam allowance when you serge the shoulder seam? It is 3/8, yes. All right, now because of the overlay, I have a tendency to not sew through it. So I have a tendency to kind of do the front at 3/8. This is the front neck edge, and then I do the back. I do them separate. But you could sew right through it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm hemming the neck edge. We're in the next column. We're on the third column, I think is what we are. And you can see there that what it's doing is it's hemming the neck edge. And again, obviously, so many ways to do this. You could do this with fold over elastic, just you can, if you decide to, I don't know, I just don't like to stitch down the overlay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right up to it. I'm going to back stitch. I'm going to cut those threads, and then I'm going to hem the back separately, the back neck edge. Just so that that overlay stays free. And I really think if you did it as one, it wouldn't be a big deal, but that's your call. Okay, we okay with questions? All right, next we're going to put in the sleeves. Before we put in the sleeves, we want to make sure that our overlay is kind of in place. So I'll just go over that with you and just pin it in place. The overlay is asymmetric. It goes from the right side to the left side. The right side is not encased all the way. There's my overlay, and my neck edge is all done. I'm going to go ahead and cut these threads. Okay, so it doesn't really look a whole lot different, except now that you can see that the neck edge underneath is finished. There's a thread coming from somewhere. I'll clip that because I backstitched everything. Okay, there we go. Now this edge right here, I can see this with a white pair of jeans. I think it would be just adorable. You can see on this is the left side. Is this the right side? Am I saying this wrong the whole time? No, that's the right side. That's right. The overlay goes from the left side to the right side. Yeah, you know, I'm used to looking at it on the envelope. That's so funny, I'm backwards. So on this right side, it's going to follow the armhole. It's going to be included when we sew the sleeve in. So that's why I'm just going to pin them together, because I'm actually going to be sewing the sleeve to 2 layers. And I want to make sure that one of those layers doesn't slip away from me. So over here, you can see that I've pinned it in place. And over here, you're pinning it, but it's only pinned partially in the armhole. And this would be the left side. So again, I'm going to just put a couple pins in here just to make sure it's following where it should. And now I can set the sleeve in just like we always do, and I can follow it blindly. Oh, it's looking so pretty. I love it. You know, it's funny when you choose your fabric pattern combination, if you like it, then you like what you sew. It's kind of fun. All right, so I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to do my sleeves, and I always fold them in half, and I put a pin on the right side so that when I go to serge them, I know to align the pin to the top of the seam. Okay, let's questions. You don't have many patterns with a raglan sleeve. Could the sleeve of Brenda's hoodie be put on other tops? Would you mind showing us how on a Thursday? Well, yes and no. I mean, it's a little more complex. I don't do a lot of raglans because raglans are really not flattering. Raglans are, because the sleeve, a lot of times, so, oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out, I'm sorry how to say this in the best way possible and say it correctly. The seam, the arm sky is there for a reason, and the reason is it does a lot of little things that you don't necessarily, that you're not aware of. So when you take away that seam or you transfer it and put it somewhere else, which is what the raglan is doing, then it is it's sacrificing what that armhole is doing best and taking it away. So a raglan is going to wrinkle. It's going to wrinkle. It's the nature of the raglan. You can't really stop it. You can't really help it. And if you do, you lose mobility. So the raglan sleeve has issues. I guess I'm just going to say that, which is why I have been minimal in doing the raglan sleeve. I saw one yesterday. I was at a get-together, and you know, it was a really cute top. So I've been a little conflicted when I do something like that. Do I offer cute or do I offer fit? And do you want to look cute despite what it looks like? And you know, I want to give us the best of both. I want to give us the best of both. And sometimes that can't always be done. Women will say to me often, you know, what pattern is best for me? There's not a pattern I release that I don't feel like is great for every figure type out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And so that's kind of the challenge. If you are large busted and you love raglans, you know, they don't love you. And so that's, you know, a conflict that I have. So that's why. So to make a raglan sleeve is not a simple process. It's more involved than a Thursday night video would offer. And so no, I wouldn't show you how to do that. But you know, we'll see if we can't do some raglans in the future, or kind of tell me what you're looking for, and we'll put a disclaimer on. All right, so I'm sewing in the sleeve. I think right now we're on the fourth column. And with this is big. Our top is really becoming creative. I've got my sleeve down. I'm sewing a 3/8 inch seam allowance. My pins are aligning at the top. My shoulder seam and my pin, the two of them are together. I've done pretty good, you guys, at not putting pins in my mouth. I know y'all haven't noticed, but I really have improved. And now, because I'm coming on to the front portion, I've got these 3 layers, and that's where the pins are really excuse me, the pins are really helpful. Or if you didn't pin it, you've just got to make sure that the overlay is sandwiched in between the sleeve and the body. So that's one sleeve in. Let's see what that looks like. Ta-la, that's beautiful. Let's do the other side. I've also got that pinned on. I've got it pinned in the middle. I usually finish my hems of my sleeves before I set the sleeves in. I just think it's a little easier. Although whenever we have a guide sheet, we always have you finishing at the end. That's just the order of the guide. But y'all know you don't have to follow the order. most of the time I would recommend it because we do it for a reason, but when you're talking about finishing, it doesn't matter. Okay, so again, I'm catching my overlay in there. Let's answer questions. In your knit patterns, is there a right or left sleeve or interchangeable? No, the knit sleeve is the same in the front and the back. So they are interchangeable. That's not true all the way across the board, but with this particular pattern it is. In our knit sleeve, we have 4218 is a knit sleeve, and that 4218 is has a dart. 120 is a princess seam, Patty's princess seam, and it also has a dart in the back of the sleeve. So about 2 years ago, they brought those darted knit sleeves back, and I decided we could offer it and then they would interchange with everything else. And the advantage is that if you're doing a lightweight fabric, a knit sleeve, you don't need that dart. But if you're doing a heavier, like the Scubas came in, and those heavier fabrics that they were doing dresses and tops out of, a dart in the back allows that knit sleeve, even though it's a knit, it allows it to bend and lay a little smoother. When you're dealing with a knit like this and you're dealing with a one-piece sleeve, you just don't really need it. All right, so that's the next sleeve. I've got 2 sleeves in, and we are going to press because you want to press that sleeve before you do the side seam, and that side seam is next. So I'm going to lay this down, and when I press a sleeve, I press the seams into the body of the t-shirt. So very quick and very easy to do. And then I always use my board at the end to just kind of pull those seams into the t-shirt. And then just press again. This pink is 100% cotton, so it's just going to press really easily. And then I do both at one time. I love this top. I just really, some of these, this is really a top where anytime you see a fabric and you say, what in the world am I going to do with that fabric? This is what you do with it. You put it over monochromatic or a contrast, and it makes a great base. It makes a great overlay. This is perfect. And like I mentioned earlier, it can be knit, it can be woven. Either one works. Okay, let's take a minute and answer questions. Where did the V cut go with the overlay? Oh, the V cut, that was at the shoulder. It just folds in. So right here on the overlay, that's where the V is, and it folds in to finish the neckline of the overlay. So it's at the shoulder. So if I understand correctly, we cannot put a raglan sleeve on another pattern like we use the armhole templates. Well, you can, but the armhole template is not a raglan. Raglan is the armhole is built into the sleeve. So it's a completely different animal. You use a, it's called an arm sky device if you go into pattern making. And part of the armhole is in the bodice and part is in the sleeve. It's not a simple no, it's just multi-stepped. It's not complex, it's just multi-stepped. Okay, can I use the pink fabric for the entire top? Yes, this is a great fabric. Yeah, this knit is really nice. Which iron do you use? I use it's a Rowenta steam tank generator. I've long lost track of the numbers because they've changed them so much, but I know it's just where Rowentas are kind of known for leaking, but there's no water in the iron. So I love this thing. It's really nice. Just look for, I think they call them their steam tank generator, and there's no water in the iron. The iron, it's all pulled up through the tank. It's in the tank. And it holds like a quart of water. Holds a lot of water. Okay, so we're doing our side seams, and when we do that, I start with my sleeve. And I'm coming up, 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 up to the side seam. I want to make sure I align my side seams right there. And on this side, I have no overlay, so I don't have to worry about matching it or making sure it's included in it. The other side, I have an overlay, so I want to make sure that I include that. All right, and I just kind of look ahead and go to the bottom and make sure that your pieces are lining up and that your edges are lining up. So use one hand to kind of keep it taut and one hand to align those over. Okay, so at this point you have one side seam. So while I've got one side seam, I go ahead and I do the bottom. I serge the bottom, and then it's a little bit easier than doing a circle. The side seam is going to be stitched to the back, so when I'm doing this serging, I always stitch from the front to the back, so it automatically goes backwards. Alright, now I'm going to do the other side. Sleeves together. And this side you have an overlay in, so once you hit that underarm seam, you're going to see that we're going to bring in the overlay. That overlay is stitched in. You know, the other day I was sewing and I realized that one reason I don't like, just when I finish that side seam and I've got a sleeve now I could hem, I actually hem the sleeve. And the reason I do that, I figured it out because a lot of times when I'm sewing, I'm watching movies and I can't hear the movie over the serger, but if I serge too much, I miss too much of the movie. But if I trade over to the sewing machine, I can figure out what's going on in the movie, even though I missed a little bit. So that's a really silly reason I'm not doing that today, because there's no movie going. So the order doesn't really make a difference, just whatever y'all feel like works for you. All right, so here I've come and I do have this overlay, so I'm going to keep the overlay laid in there. I pinned it on the sleeve. I pinned it on the sleeve because the sleeve is curved, and to get all those edges lined up is a little more tricky. And also because the overlay has more width in it than the body of the garment, you want to be careful that you don't pull it over too much. So just be careful on that. Here, as it goes down the side, I can literally just line it up. So I guess what I'm saying is sewing a straight edge is easier than sewing the curved edge. So here comes the overlay in here, and then I'm going to put this on top, make sure my edges are all even, and here we go. And on this, you go as fast or as slow as you want. I think with that, we're done with the serger. For some reason, whenever I'm done with my serger, I always get a little charged by turning it off at that point. I think these are all silly little things I do. You guys can tell how weird I am. Alright, so we're going to inside this out and look at our really pretty top. Just pull the sleeve up. And pull this one up. Sometimes if you do these one at a time, it's maybe a little bit easier. Here we go. And then I'm just going to hem the sleeves and I'm going to hem the bottom. Isn't that cute? It's actually a top. It's become a top. Hey! And let's answer questions you've got. Hang on just a minute, and I'm going to hem these sleeves in the bottom while we're doing it. My top will be finished and I get to wear it. Okay, what's the fabric of the blue shirt on the mannequin? Oh, it is beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? That's a rayon. That's a rayon. It's a really, yeah, that color is just gorgeous. That is a rayon. As I recall, you used to sell those irons on your website. I couldn't afford one at the time. Do you have any plans to offer them again? No, simply because the better way to get them, and they weren't doing them at the time, Bed Bath & Beyond is, I think, the best way to get them. They have, Bed Bath & Beyond is like coupons you to death. At that time that I was selling them, and this goes back before the Supreme Court made some changes, but you could not alter, you couldn't alter the price. And so I was told I had to sell them at a certain price, but I was higher than Bed Bath & Beyond, and I felt like that wasn't right. So I stopped selling them for that reason. I did. That was many, many years ago. So I would use Bed Bath & Beyond. You can, no matter where you are, you can get one. They are, you can get them online. And I'm pretty sure they have that model. This is purple, but they might, mine's old. They might even have a newer model than what this one is. Say that again, how you stitch front to back. Ooh, what did I say? Some people always say, what did you say? I'm like, I don't know, what did I say? Okay, that's the end of one sleeve done. Let's do the other one. Then we'll give it a final press, and we'll have us a new top. We'll put it on a little mannequin so you can see it. Are you using a 3-thread serger? No. Can we talk about that for a second, you guys? 3-thread is not meant to finish. 3-thread is meant to overcast. So if you're using the same machine, which they don't in the industry, they have lineup, and so these people are using 4-thread because they're constructing the garment. These people are using 3-thread because they're finishing the garment. But you're doing both on the same machine, so you certainly don't want to, or I don't want to. I shouldn't say you don't want to, maybe you do want to, but it's a lot of time to change it from a 4-thread to a 3-thread. Well, maybe it's not a lot of time, but it's some time, and I don't think it's worth it. So you can overcast in a 4-thread. So I use a 4-thread for everything because you can. You don't want to use a 3-thread for everything because you are leaving out your needle stitch. Your 3 threads are your 2 loopers and your 1. That's the 1 is just so that the loopers make the loop. So you wouldn't want to sew with a 3-thread because it leaves out your left needle, which is your stitching thread. So you have 1 stitching thread and 3 threads that loop. So the 4-thread is meant to be a construction stitch. Then if you're overcasting, you only need the 3, but if you only use the 3, you've got to switch your machine. So I set it to 4, and I do it with 4 all the time, unless I'm doing a rolled hem. If I'm doing a rolled hem, I don't, but other than that, I do. And I'm going to go ahead and hem this bottom here real quick. And again, I'm on a 3-thread, I'm on a, what am I saying? I'm on a 3.5 is what I was trying to say. 3.5, and my needle, I'm always using a 70-10. Just a regular stitch length. 3.5. And I've got a Teflon foot on, and I use that line right there as kind of my mark to where I put my fold. Sorry, I'm gucking things up here. So when you are using a serger, what are 5-thread sergers used for? That's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer to that. In the industry, I don't know that I've seen a 5-thread. I'm sure there are. I just don't know that I'm familiar with it, you guys. 5-thread. Isn't 5-thread your overlock? I think 5-thread is your, not your overlock. It's your, it's called something. My mind is blank right now. Your 5-thread is your, I don't know. Somebody come up with a name and help me here. What differential setting do you use? I turn off my differential. I don't want a differential. Differentials will shift your sewing, and I want to do my own shifting. I don't want the machine to be doing anything for me. I want to be doing, except for stitching, the control and all of that, I want to be under my hands so that it will go through unevenly, especially if you notice when I'm doing that sleeve. I want the sleeve on the bottom so that the machine will pull it through unevenly, which it does beautifully. It eases it in for you is what it does. Say that again, how you stitch front to back.
This is the continuation.
Oh, you said how you sew makes the seam fold to the back. Oh. Okay, so if you noticed, I did one underarm seam. I sewed from the sleeve underarm to the hem. Okay, so at that point, your body is together. The only thing you have open is this one side seam. So because you have that one side seam open, it's a great time to finish the bottom, to serge the bottom. So you want to go either it's up or down, depending, it doesn't matter which one you sew first. So, but just sew it to where you are sewing from the front to the back so that the seam automatically goes to the back. It's stitched to the back because that's where you want to press it. You'll see in a minute. When I go to press this, I press my side seams to the back. That's what I was saying. It's just a little thing, but to me, you're less likely to sew that seam in the wrong direction. And I'll tell you something, that's one thing that really bugs me, is when I'm sewing and my seams are wrong. Like, I just can't stand my shoulder seams not being right, and it's such a stupid little thing. And my side seams not being stitched to the back. And I think it's probably, for me, it's a pattern making thing. Because whenever we make patterns, vertical seams are folded to the center or to the back. To the center front, center back. Or the side seams are stitched to the back. And then shoulder seams are pressed to the back also. So I'm going to inside this out and just give it a little bit of press, and we'll put it on a little mannequin. All right, what else? I'm glad to hear that, because I'm always using my 4 thread, but others have said I need to change back to a 3 thread, and I couldn't understand why. No, there's no reason why. That's why you can't understand why. It's not logical. That's why I say I think it's really helpful, you all, when we have logic, so that we can, instead of just following rules, especially when there's a lot of rules out there, I think that have been around for so long, I don't think they're even accurate to the way we're sewing today. But no, and it's your decision. There's people that will argue that and say that a 4 thread is too heavy for a hem. That's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But it's your garment, and then you're the one who gets to decide whether you want to change the machine, and it's your time. Whether you want to change the machine or whether you find it acceptable, and I've always found it to be acceptable. Okay, so I'm just hemming these. I'm pressing the hem, sorry. And then we'll answer a few questions, and then it's time for you guys to sew. Right? They always say, monkey see, monkey do. So I'm the first monkey, and you guys are the second monkeys. And I think I have a mannequin. Is there a little form right there, by chance? A white one? Can you hand that to me, by chance? Sorry. This is just cute as can be. I just love the contrast of this overlay, but please, oh, thank you. Yeah, we're going to put on a little half mannequin just so we can see what's going on here. On the diagram, it looks like there is another line under the sides on the diagram. It looks like there is another line under that side seam below that sleeve. I don't know, you guys. I'm not sure what on the diagram that's up. Is that the one you're talking about? Is this cute? Oh my gosh, I just love it. I really, really like it. What do y'all think? Hem from side to side instead of around. Oh, okay. Oh, why did you stitch the hem from side to side Well, whenever you're stitching flat, just know the flat is always easier than stitching around. So if you can stitch, when I completed the one side seam, and I knew that I needed to serge the bottom before I stitched it, it's flat. Flat is always easier to stitch than a circle. Always. Always. That's why we set the sleeve in flat instead of a circle. Flat, when you think sewing and how you're going to construct, flat is always simpler than anything else. I've taken that away. Okay. Okay, there we go. Little camera work here. Okay, let me read the questions. 5-thread serger is often called a safety stitch and is frequently used in the industry. I've not even heard that before, so I'm sorry to not be up on that. But be careful that, you know, what you don't want to do, and I'm going to go back to years and years and years ago. I sewed for Elvis Stojko, and Elvis Stojko is a Canadian Olympic ice skater. And I sewed in particular, I did his Olympic outfits. And really because his mom, the only reason they really called me in is because his mother had sewn all of his outfits. And I'll make this story short. She said to me, I never want his bum to show on the ice. And so what she would do is she'd stitch and stitch and stitch to make sure that it wouldn't come out. There's a point where you saturate a fabric with too much thread and it is not a positive. We know that. It's called embroidery. And what it does is it breaks down the fiber. So another thread to me is completely overkill. I'm going to have to do my homework on that because I'm going to have to disagree a little bit. I've never heard of that in the industry, but I'll check on it and I'll report back, you guys. Okay, I've got plenty of people around here in Dallas who sew. Coldwater Creek is made here. There's a lot of different companies. There's a Neiman Marcus brand label is made here in Dallas, and the lady who makes it, I'm familiar with her. So I'll check. I'll do my homework and report back and really get the right information for you, if that's okay. I'm sorry that I don't have it. I don't know. But I would caution about putting too much thread into the fabric. That makes me nervous. Keep in mind that when you are doing a serger thread with 4 threads, there's only 2 going in because the 2 are wrapping around it. So there's only the stitch, and then there's the second one is that in case the first one breaks, that would be your second. But the 5 thread is that there must be 3 needles up top. You know, I don't know. We'll quit speculating. Okay, but I'll get some answers for you and I'll make sure that they're correct. How's that? All right, this was fun. Anything else, you guys? You know, we're upcoming on our Series 11. The Series 11 is Your Questions Are Answers. So I really, and you can email me. Your questions are answers. Things you've wondered about. You know, we won't BS anything. You know, the fact of the matter is to set the record straight. I think industry does a great job, clearly because they have to perform a lot of clothing at a great cost, and they have to make it good, or otherwise you won't go back and buy that brand. So I think it's really imperative that we, on some level, mimic ourselves after that, and then from there you can make decisions about what you decide and what you want to do. So if you want anything that you want addressed in this series, send an email and put in the topic fit to stitch. Just for the subject matter, if you put fit to stitch at the top, that will really help. So this is pattern number 145, St. John's. This is our cute, did y'all get the fabric numbers? This one is 5271 and 5273, the one we did today. Then the one I have on, I guess I didn't even show it to you. This is, I decided to do a contrasting, 5219 and 5270 is the black that I have on. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, so any other questions that we can answer now for you? Anything else? That means it's time for happy sewing. Okay. Any other questions that are on that we need to address? Oh, there are? Okay, so hang on just 1 second, and we're doing a little, you don't even want to know what's going on behind the scenes today. They're doing an amazing job, but they definitely have their challenges back there. So we're going to pull those questions up in just 1 second. And we'll get them answered. Okay, so it says it's used with woven fabrics, not usually knit. So you have your seam and 2-thread chain stitch, and the 3 threads are overcasting the edges so they don't fray. Yeah. 3 threads. Yeah, I'll check this out. I promise you guys, we'll get really good answers, and it's very important to me as I do this pattern line to you all, is to bring you what's in the industry. I don't ever feel safe. I don't ever feel like I've done my work. I always feel like it's critical to stay in touch with that ready-to-wear industry. And as you know, and you've seen with PBS, we are behind the scenes all the time with very well-known designers. And believe me, off camera, I am drilling their poor little brains about what they do and how they do it and why they do it. And they're sewing for Bergdorf Goodman. You know, this is really high-end stuff. So I will find out the right information for you. Not to dispute what anyone has said, but I just want to make sure it's current. I think that's, because sometimes we can have information and it changes. Okay, did you make the top you were wearing longer? No. This top I did the same, exactly by the pattern. Yep, exactly. I didn't make any changes. Sometimes I will. Can you show us the finished top? Oh, this finished top? Yeah. I thought we did, but I might have had it up when we weren't showing you. So here it is. Here's my little overlay. Is this cute? See, you see what I love about this is this whole neckline thing is this is a cowl and you have a little neckline showing through. So in some cases, if you used a little fold over elastic right here, it would be adorable. The sleeves, you could change the sleeves if you wanted to do them out of the netting. There's so many options. At least you could make, I don't know how many tops, and you change it up every time, huh? I just love it. So you can see on the left side, it doesn't anchor. It only anchors into the armhole, and then it comes free, and then comes down. Okay, this is usually cut on a bias. If you do a woven, if it's a knit, you don't have to worry about it. Just use for your greatest placement. When you're using 2 different fabrics, I used a yard of this, and then your base takes 2 yards, depending on your sleeve. I did a long sleeve, so it took 2 yards. Okay? All right, is that good? Everybody's happy? Yay! All right, so the goal is to have happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns. And we'll see you all in a week. All right, later. Thank you. Bye.